Hey folks, Zach Osterman here, IU Insider. Dustin Dopirak, IU Insider, Indianapolis Star, Bloomington Herald Times. Indiana 51, Northwestern 59. It's been a long day, forgive me. A very weird game for a lot of reasons, and we have to start with the suspensions. 5 players suspended: Michael Durr, Xavier Johnson, Parker Stewart, Tamar Bates, and I'm blanking on the Christian Lander. I think, obviously, it affected the game. I think that's the first thing to say. It clearly, I mean, there were points when, because of foul trouble and a lack of willingness to play Logan Duncombe, Indiana was basically running a 5-man rotation. Trey Galloway played point guard until he fouled out. Anthony Leal then took over. Certainly, I think you can give some credit to the guys who played for battling and all that, but
Galloway in particular.
It just.
That's not what that basketball team is supposed to look like.
No.
I mean, bottom line, that this team came in here, we talked about how important it was for them to be able to go get a road win in a place like this, and come out here and, look, at this point, obviously, we've been trying to figure out what exactly happened. You won't be shocked to learn that Mike Woodson would not tell us what happened, but just said that they broke team rules, and he indicated that he, basically made the decision this morning. You've heard rumors, we can't confirm any of them, but basically whatever happened to a position that Mike Woodson had to make a decision today in terms of what he was going to do, whether he was going to suspend guys, if he was going to keep them all out. And he decided to do that. Obviously, it explained and said, look, this is my job. If there are rules, then guys have to abide by them, and if they break them, they can't play.
His point was that, I think, in not so many words, was, what he's trying to do, the pro culture he's trying to build, the standards he's trying to uphold are bigger than one game.
Right.
It is a very Bob Knight level thing. I mean, famously, once Knight, and you can agree with it, you can disagree with it. I'm not passing judgment one way or the other, but Knight famously once benched all of his starters in a game at Illinois for the entire game. Just didn't play any of them, and that was, I think, more performance related. But it's more the idea that there's a decisiveness around when the coach feels like something is not right and a message needs to be sent, or what's the word I'm looking for? Something needs to, the system needs a reset for whatever reason, whether it's on the court performance, something off the court related.
Right.
He's not going to be afraid to do it, and I think the message, particularly tonight, was it's year one, and we're not going to tolerate any slippage in what we see as the standards we're going to uphold.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point. And what it comes down to is basically if there are rules and there are consequences for those rules, then the consequences have to be abided by, or you don't have a culture. Basically, you don't have a program if you're willing to, fudge those, break those, move around on those, look the other way because the game's too important. Because it's a big game that you have to win. It's one you don't want to throw away for tournament purposes. It's more important to establish the culture, and whatever that consequences that leads to. It's more important to establish the culture than it is to win the basketball game. To win one basketball game, basically the idea. Obviously, you'll win more basketball games if you establish a culture by which there are rules and guys abide by them.
And I think
there's a pretty good argument for that. And frankly, this is not a new argument for Mike Woodson. This is not a new argument for Indiana athletics.
No.
This is one that a lot of people have dealt with. It just so happens that they were in a position that they had 5.
I think the issue is
punish at the same time.
Is sort of accountability. I think that's the word that wasn't spoken. And again, you can agree with this, you can disagree with it. I'm not telling you how to think.
And again, we just don't know exactly what happened.
The unspoken sort of overarching thrust is accountability.
Right.
And the idea that you are accountable to your teammates, to your coaches, to the wider, when I was in college, we stopped drinking second semester for Little 5. Did that make us better cyclists? Maybe marginally.
I would think it would make you a lot better cyclists.
But it was more the idea of, we were committing something to one another. And again, we don't know what caused this. We don't know what rules were broken. So you can't really pass judgment, whether it's personal or professional or whatever, on what happened. But it's something that it does feel sort of like a pivotal moment for Mike Woodson.
Yes, it does.
Just in terms of, Indiana's next 3 now are at Michigan State, Wisconsin, at Ohio State. It is possible that Indiana, who's 76 right now, is 7-9 in a week and a half in the conference after starting 7-4, and is squarely back on the bubble.
Yep.
And is basically out of realistic quality win opportunities. This was Northwestern alone.
That's putting your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, the Northwestern alone shouldn't make or break you, but this would have been a quad 1 win for, at least as things stood right now, where Northwestern is in the net. This would have been a quad 1 win for Indiana. It's a miss, and it's the sort of game that would have, as we said many times, made March, late February and March, a lot
more comfortable,
a lot less stressful. And listen, Indiana still had its opportunities to win. It was 53-49 at the last media timeout, or right around there. They were clearly tired. It was clearly difficult. It's worth saying that, like,
Trey Galloway could not come off the floor. Couldn't come off.
Well,
the floor.
and
it
it's
wasn't really an option until he fouled out.
It's worth saying they keep it close. Northwestern's 5 of 27 from 3.
Yeah, that's the biggest.
Some of those were good looks too. Now some of it Indiana did play well defensively, but some of those were good looks.
Yeah.
That didn't go down. And of course, you
got a bank 3.
You can say on the other end that Indiana had some good looks that didn't go down and all that. My point is, Indiana still could have won this game. There were still opportunities to win this game, and if Indiana is full strength or anything resembling it, they probably do win this game. So at some level, Mike Woodson kind of did sacrifice results for his word was culture. And that's why it does feel like a fairly pivotal game, because either guys buy into that, they coalesce around it, and it strengthens you moving forward, and it gives you that sort of consistency and togetherness that I think that this program has just sort of reached around for a long time now, or it doesn't.
Right.
And you wind up looking at a game like this as more of a you wind up looking at this as more of just kind of a moment when maybe something got away from Indiana.
Yeah, no, that's really the thing. I mean, this is the money where your mouth is moment, because it's not just a question of what happens now. I mean, I think it's hard to, and again, not knowing what happened, just his basic argument, has been made by just about every coach, and I feel like any coach that's sort of, I don't want to go so far as to say worth his salt, but just about any coach would say, like, if you have to establish boundaries, you have to establish rules, you have to establish laws within your program that if they're broken, then it does not matter what happens on the field, or on the court. You have to hold them accountable, or you will lose it. You will lose control entirely. That being said, it's not so much what happens now. It's what's what happened tonight. It's what happens next. It is, do you get the rest of the guys that, again, the guys that you were suspending? Does that message get through? Because again, you could lose this team fast.
Well,
I wouldn't blame him for doing this, but like, this is a situation where, like, your starting point guard didn't play tonight.
Well, I think it's also sort of more broadly, like, we spent a lot of the spring and summer hearing players and recruits and transfers talk about why, Mike Woodson and their relationship with him, and the ease with which they could build a rapport with him, and the way that he was, the term players coach came up a lot.
Yeah.
We heard people use that language and describe Woodson in those terms, including his players and the players who were choosing to come play for him,
including several of these guys who got suspended.
Yeah, and to have, all 5 of these players were either signees once Woodson took over, or they were players who at some point were in the portal.
Yeah.
And so the point I'm trying to make is, you've got that side of your relationship with your coach. Now you've got this side. And, if the delicate line a coach walks is figuring out how to balance both, how to be a player's coach, but also be tough when tough is what's called for, when tough is what in his mind is necessary. And that is tricky. And that is not a that is not an easy balance beam to walk without stumbling.
Right.
And to your point, it's all about what happens now.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like the real world theme. It's what like strangers in a program or whatever, and this is when things start getting real.
Okay.
Kind of, you see where I'm going with that?
No.
All right, it's a little bit of a reach, but this is the moment where it gets real.
It's
This is the moment
midnight
where it's
Eastern.
not just introducing yourself anymore. This is what happens when coach punishes you. How does that go? How does that change your relationship when it's not all sunshine and rainbows, when he's not just telling you to be more confident and trust yourself more, when it's you screwed up, you lose this. This is how it goes now. What is the next step? How do you rebuild the trust, basically? How do you regain the trust, basically, if you're a player? How does it go from there? And that's really kind of where it is right now. And just how does all this trickle down? And so, yeah, like I said, big moment for Mike Woodson, big moment for the staff, big moment for these guys. It's like, how do they hold together? And they are going to be still on the road. They go into Breslin Center of all places, which is a brutal place to play against a really good Michigan State team. And that's what's next.
For sure, it's a really good Michigan State team.
It's a pretty good Michigan State
They
team.
got whacked by Rutgers and they lost tonight
I didn't see that last time.
at home to Wisconsin.
They're pretty good.
I mean,
they beat good teams.
My point.
They have players.
That's fine. They're hitting a bit of a stumbling
They're
block.
definitely
Either
a better
way,
team than what Indiana put on the floor tonight.
I
think I can safely
Let's wrap
say
this
that.
by saying Woodson also would not specify whether the suspension's in tonight or not.
Yeah.
He
said it is his call.
It is.
That's worth
It
pointing
is
out.
worth pointing out too that Indiana has announced when the one time a player was suspended for multiple games this season, it was announced. It was formalized.
And he didn't dress.
Yeah, and yes, he did not. Logan Duncombe did not dress. So, do with that what you will. For Dustin Dopirak, I'm Zach Osterman. This is Run Long, but we're tired. Thank you for watching. For the Indianapolis Star and the Bloomington Herald Times, we will see you soon.